just having sober sex, like you actually feel things. Like it's not like it numbs your sensations. And I think that's like what's so beautiful. And that's what was scary before, thank goodness I was with someone that I loved and trusted so much. And I was able to say, hey, I'm nervous, or like, hey, my sex drive has changed now, because I would lean on drinking sometimes to like get me there.
All right, Sober Stories family, I am so excited to welcome Shea Gomez of No Booze Babes to the Sober Stories podcast. Shea, thanks for being here.
Yay, thanks for having me. So excited. Finally, we made it happen.
I know, finally. So for those who don't know, Shea is like bi-coastal at this point, bopping around from West Coast to East Coast to West Coast. So I don't know how you are standing upright. I get jet lagged just going like 2 hours time difference. So I can't even imagine 3 on a regular basis.
Yeah, some coffee, some hydration. We do what we can. We're sober, so we're like, oh wait, I have energy. I don't.
That's true.
Not wasting days anymore.
Can you imagine doing it if you were still drinking, doing this travel?
No. It'd be miserable.
Miserable. Well, I'm so glad you're here and joining us today. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. I have been following you since like the very first No Booze Babes reel that y'all posted like at the beginning, introducing yourself. So this feels like years in the making.
Oh
but for those who are not familiar with you, give us the high notes of who you are, where you are, what you do, so that they can know a little bit more about Shea.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Shea Gomez. I'm the creator of No Booze Babes, which is a community that supports and celebrates your beautiful booze-free life. I launched No Booze Babes when I was 6 months sober. I initially launched it with my sister, who is also sober, Sydney. Shout out to her. And then she was like, second week, she's like, this is not for me. You go ahead and live your dreams. But I was really just looking to create like a safe space, a judgment-free zone, a booze-free zone, and just a place to like celebrate sobriety and also to connect. Connection is so key and it's so important. And I think for a long time, what held me back from getting sober is that I didn't see a lot of like young women in their 20s, living life without alcohol. And so, one of my goals with No Booze Babes is to just normalize and glamorize sobriety, because honestly, I've never felt more beautiful in my own skin. And a lot of that is like the hard work I've had to do to stay sober, to get sober, and to really like get in touch with my feelings and no longer numb them. So it's been a beautiful, wild ride. I'm currently in New York City, but as Beth said, I've been back and forth. I'm from California originally, and I am an actress. So I'm a musical theater performer. So I moved to New York after I graduated college. I went to school in Boston and I moved here. It's always been my dream to be in New York and perform. And so, yeah, I'm about to take off and do 2 shows this summer. And so come along with me. I share a lot of No Booze Babes about, not only my sober story, but just kind of like the day to day even. There are little things here and there throughout my life that like spark moments of like gratitude for being sober and like, wow, like look how far I've come, or wow, I can actually go into auditions and not think like maybe I didn't hit that high note because I had a glass of wine last night. I really realize now how much headspace alcohol was taking up in my life and how, much negativity, honestly, it brought to my life, my career, my relationships, all of the above.
The presenting sponsor of Sober Stories is Lyre's Non-Alcoholic Spirits, a spirits company on a quest to replicate well in as many different alcoholic spirits as possible, allowing us to drink our way. With over 17 spirits, 5 pre-mixed cocktails, and 1 spectacular sparkling wine, all without alcohol, Lyre's has become the Sober Stories team's standard for zero-proof drinks that feel festive and celebratory. Sober Stories is a mission-based company. You can find our company's core values right on our About page, and we are committed to partnering with other brands who put people and planet over profit too, which is why we love Lyre's. They have a sustainability and social responsibility mission at the forefront of their business, with 100% recyclable packaging and a supply chain that reduces intercontinental freighting, a leading contributor to carbon emissions. They also outline their core values at Lyre's, which are mateship, awesomeness, the pay it forward principle, and empowered independence. In our opinion, Lyre's commitment to people and planet makes their sips that much sweeter. Head over to lyres.com and use code SoberStories1010, that's the number 10, the word 10, for 10% off your purchase. Lyres gives you the freedom to drink your way, to not just provide an alternative to those who don't wish to imbibe alcohol, but to ensure that everyone can enjoy the mirth and the merriment of a soiree or shindig. Can you tell us what roles you're playing this summer?
Yes, I haven't. I just signed the contract, but I'm kind of waiting for like the press release to come out.
Yeah.
That I'm playing Louise in Gypsy, and then I am in Jersey Boys as well. Honestly, I forget my character's name in Jersey Boys, but Louise has been like a dream role of mine, and that's how I'm starting the summer. And it's with a really awesome team. I still don't know like the full cast and stuff, so it's very still much on like the DL, I guess. But yeah, I'm heading out there in a few weeks, and I'm excited. I'm just so grateful to like be back on stage after 2 years of the theater industry really taking a big hit, and I'm just really, really grateful and excited and nervous and all the things.
Yeah. Well, in Colorado in the summer, what a dream. So beautiful there.
Yeah. I'm
very excited for you. So tell us the story of you and alcohol. How did you become a no booze babe? What was your progression to this point?
Oh my gosh, where do we begin? Please also feel free to be like, cut me off because I'm a talker, Beth. And like, I will continue. I'm sure like little things will come up and I'll be like, ooh, let me talk about this and this and this. Obviously, I'm very passionate about.
I love to start very open-ended because it's all irrelevant.
Amazing. Well, my relationship with alcohol is, I did not drink till like sophomore year of college. I was a good girl. Like literally in high school, we were like, ooh, she's a prude, she's this. And I'm like, call me what you want. I don't know what to say. But like, I wasn't like off drinking and partying. I was, trying to get good grades. I was doing theater. I was, focusing on a lot more other than drinking. I was a rule follower, I guess. And I'm an older sister. I always want to set an example, la, la, la. So it wasn't until sophomore year. And really, I feel like it was a combination of, I was in a sorority. I, was doing shows and we'd have like cast parties. I think that's when I like first had my first shot was like before a cast party or something. Also my parents got divorced sophomore year of college. So, there's probably some numbing of my feelings occurring there. I obviously was in like kind of a stressful major. I got a BFA in musical theater, but at the time my college had a cut program. And so, you'd re-audition sophomore year and then they cut people from our class. It was brutal. I didn't even honestly make the connection of like, I think I just kind of started drinking and you're in college and like, you feel like you're an adult and you are going to these parties, you want to be cool. And, so that's kind of where my drinking started. And I think, I didn't know I had unhealthy drinking patterns because it looked very similar to the people around me. And yeah, I just remember like my graduation day, I was so hungover because I was drinking the night before, like with my classmates, but also with like my parents. And my parents were like divorced. And I think there were weird dynamics with that. And, I think the way that we kind of bonded weirdly was like, let's take shots as a family. And I think we were all just trying to ignore the hard stuff and the fact that it was awkward and all of that. And so, being hungover on your graduation day, I do not recommend. You're stuck in those seats. I was like, where's the nearest bathroom? 0 stars, horrible review on Yelp. No, it's a no. And then really, I feel like my heavy drinking was after college. I went through a breakup with someone I was with for almost 5 years. So I thought like we were going to be together forever. And he comes back into the story later in my life. But, I didn't know how to deal with those feelings. And I was in Boston for the summer. A lot of people after graduating either moved home or moved to their next phase of life. And I was, staying on my lease through the end of the summer. And then I moved to New York after. And I think I was just kind of like, I'm heartbroken. Where do I fit in the world? Like, what do I do? Where do I go? Also moving to New York was super exciting, but you can party till the sun comes up. It is the city that never sleeps. So I took full advantage of that. And I worked in the service industry. I mean, honestly, there's so many things that all just, I don't know, it was a bad combination. And so, you know, I worked in the service industry. I was working my butt off all summer to save money. But then, you know, I would go out drinking afterwards and again, go out until the bars would close and then sleep all day and then go back for my shift again. And it just was not a healthy lifestyle. I wasn't treating my body right. I wasn't treating myself right. It was just a bad cycle. So yeah, I think, you know, continuing to work in the service industry in New York, and I would drink on the job. You know, there was a job at this really cool, I guess I can just say it, it's Soho House, which is like a members only club, and a lot of celebrities go there, and it's very exclusive, and I loved working there. But, you know, people would be like hiding drinks behind the bar, or like we'd have little mugs, coffee mugs that we'd hide under the espresso machine, and we'd like go sip wine and stuff. And, or even like our pre-shift where we're learning about new drinks and they're having us wine taste, or what's the cocktail of the week that we're going to try to sell. Meanwhile, all of us were like, not just taking sips of this, like we were trying to like chug it before our shift. Like it was just unhealthy. And I think obviously your surroundings affect your drinking as well. And that was definitely true for me. And I was a social drinker. I wasn't like drinking a ton on my own. It was always going out. You know, I wasn't drinking alone. Like I was always drinking with people. And so I just kind of got carried away, and like I'm a fast drinker too. Even now being sober, like I went out the other night and I drank like a Diet Coke, club soda. Like I just drink so fast. And so I turned to my friend. I was like, this is why I can't drink alcohol, because I'm going through this. I'm going to the bathroom a million times because I just drink super fast. And so when I was like out on the dance floor in my early 20s and like I, you know, guzzle down a drink, people would be like, do you need another one? Or, you know, I'd always want my drink refilled, and I wasn't counting. I wasn't keeping track. And then I just got carried away, and I blacked out. I would do and say things I would never do sober. I wouldn't remember how I got home. I would like, honestly, sometimes Irish goodbye situations, and like not have the cab drop me at my apartment. I would have them drop me like a block away at this halal place and get like total food, walk to CVS, get like drumsticks, like I was just trashing my body. Like, what were you doing, Shea? I'd wake up the next morning with like rice in my bed. Like this was not a healthy lifestyle for many reasons. Like I just was not treating myself right. And, you know, I kind of recognized like, hey, this isn't cool. I'm kind of having this anxiety. I don't like not remembering how I got home. I don't like checking my purse to see if I have all my belongings, or saying something rude to someone that I care about, or like making out with someone that I was like the make out queen when I was drinking, especially to bartenders, which is also bad. Because then they would just
get more drinks.
Yeah, it was horrible. At the time, I was like, I'm living, I'm giving, I'm having the best time and thriving. Like, I thought that that's what it was like to be thriving in New York City. It's not. And I would do breaks here and there because I started to be like, this is not healthy. It's not good. But again, it's so normalized that I was like, everyone's doing it. It's fine. So I did like dry Januaries, no drink November, whatever. And then I'd be like, oh, good job, Shea. Like you did it. Now let's drink again. And it just was, I would continue drinking the same way. And so honestly, it wasn't until I got into a relationship with the guy that broke up with me right before graduating college. We got back together. He expressed interest in like dating me again, and I did not see that coming. And he moved to New York for me. We got a place together. And I think just when you have someone that you care about so much and love, like, you know, instead of going out after work, I would go home to be with him. And when I, you know, went to a holiday party and was drinking heavily and would come home late at night and like fall asleep in the shower, and he had to jimmy the door open, like not cool. Like when it's your drinking is affecting someone else, that's when I was like, oh shit, I can like treat myself poorly all I want. And I can like stumble home and no one has to know but me, maybe my roommates at the time back in the day. But this time it's like with someone that I love and care about. And he never said like, I think you have a drinking problem. Because again, I was only drinking out. I wasn't like drinking a ton at home or anything like that. But I felt horrible. And like, I just feel like I didn't want to lose him. And so that was like a big wake up call to me. And kind of my final big drinking moment was we went to a wedding of someone that we went to high school with. And I was so anxious and so nervous and so self-conscious. And so even as I was getting ready for the wedding, I was drinking rosé and getting ready, and I felt horrible. I felt like my makeup was bad. My hair was bad. I felt not cute. Like I just was so self-conscious. And, you know, as soon as we got there, the open bar was flowing, you know, even before the ceremony. So I was just drinking throughout the whole thing. And, you know, we went to the after party, and I later learned that he was like, why don't we go home? And I was like, no, we have to go to the after party. Like, can you believe he doesn't want to go? And like, people were like, oh, like you guys got to go. And, you know, I ended up like falling. I was a big faller when I drank too. I ended up calling myself an Uber. Why? Like my boyfriend at the time was there. Like, why am I doing this? And then I like went home. I'm sure he was like, where the F are you? Like, I just made bad decisions. And, you know, I was hysterical, called my mom hysterical. I don't even know why. I guess I was upset about something. Who even knows? Nothing makes sense when you're in that state of mind. I was so hungover. It was horrible. And I just hated myself. I was like, I hated what I did. I hated that I embarrassed my partner and embarrassed myself. I'm like, I probably did stuff I don't even remember. And it's just a horrible feeling to wake up the next day and be like, what happened? And to have to hear it from loved ones that care about you is horrible. It's just like, like just, and then, you know, for so long, I didn't realize like you are in control of your own life. You can choose to not be doing this, and you can choose to cut out the thing that is making this happen, and that is making you turn into this nightmare and making you feel so horrible, not only sick, but just like horrible. Like I'm a terrible person. I'm a terrible partner. I'm a terrible daughter, just terrible. So after that, I was like, I'm going to take a significant break because 1 month obviously is not enough. So I committed to 3 months. And that just like changed things for me. And I liked who I was for 3 months, and I wasn't hungover for 3 months. And I kept extending that break. I was like, oh, I have a performance. Like I'm going to extend it another week. And oh, I have something else. And honestly, I kind of had to come to terms with the fact that like, wow, I think this is it. Like, I think I can't live my life with alcohol anymore. Like I like myself too much without alcohol to put myself through that again. So honestly, it's been almost 3 years later, and that 3-month break has turned into this just sober lifestyle that I'm so proud of. And, you know, No Booze Babes has been just I'm just so grateful to connect with people like you, and to know that I'm not alone, and to see others like me, and to be able to like encourage each other, and to just, I feel like we just go through it together. And I think that's so beautiful to be able to share our stories, share even the day to day, if it's on an Instagram story, or share like a triumph or like maybe a trial in our journeys. So that was long, but that's me.
It was so good though. I mean, I was writing so many notes because there were so many pieces that spoke to me, and I think we feel like they're fairly like isolated, but I think there's some really universal themes in that. And I laughed because I was also a goody two shoes. I was such a good girl. I drank one time in high school, just like an experimentation, didn't go well. And that was it. And like, funny enough, I was not in theater, but I hung out with theater friends. Like my group of friends were all in theater, and I was like the one who wasn't. And like, alcohol just like wasn't even on our radar. We were too busy. We were doing other things. We were nerds. Like we would like play, we would like have like film contests and stuff. We were like total nerds. But
I love that.
it's so interesting, like when it's just not even part of your worldview. And then you get introduced to something like college and have all these stressors. And it's really, I mean, like I cannot even fathom the cut thing for college. Like not only are you cut from this play, like you're cut from college, but all of these stressors
figure out a
once.
major.
Yeah, excuse me, what? Like you can't do the thing that, it's not like I went into psych and they were like, you're cut from psych, like you don't get to do this.
Yeah.
So, I hear this kind of like perfect storm of the experience with your family and the exposure and the Greek life and all of these things coming together. And it's so interesting how it'll creep up and we just don't even notice. We don't even notice that this has become the thing that is now the focal point of everything else. Whether or not it is to a point where you're drinking every day, drinking by yourself, it just becomes the thing that is how you use to celebrate, the thing how you use to connect with other people, the thing you use to deal with family trauma and this experience that you are all going through together. So I feel like that there's such universality. Is that a word? Universality in this idea of
you're making it a word.
We're going with it. You know what I mean? That like this idea that nobody like means to get in a place where alcohol is not serving them. It's not working because, objectively, it's not the most fun to have to give it up or to have to remove it from your life at first. But there's so many factors at play that are just really all not against us. That's not the word I want to use, but like are all part of our eventual relationship with alcohol. And that's why I asked this as an open-ended question, because it all matters. Like all of that whole story led you to who you are now. And man, I like feel the dagger in the chest of having to wake up hungover the next day and like find out what you did the night before with family and loved ones. And a girlfriend and I used to call that the fear. Like we joke about it, but it's like, oh my God, true fear. So you said that you started to like yourself when you had that 3-month break. And I'm curious what that looked like on like a day-to-day level. Like how did that change your experience by removing this one thing?
Yeah, I just feel like I was a better partner because I wasn't, coming home from work, like, or like coming home from going out and being a mess, or, sometimes I would go out with him and our friends and he had to like, make sure that I wasn't like falling down coming home. And like, it's just not a good look. I just feel like I was more present. Cause even if we'd like make dinner together and open a bottle of wine or something, like towards the end of that bottle and towards the end of the night, it would get fuzzy. So sometimes if we'd have these deep conversations, like I would kind of forget some of what was said. I already have a bad memory, which is so silly as an actor because like I have to memorize full shows, but I have a bad memory. So that combined with alcohol, not a good mix. And so, sometimes he'd be like, yeah, like what we talked about last night. And meanwhile, I'm like searching in my brain, like, what did we talk about? Because it got fuzzy and that's horrible. That's horrible. So yeah, just I could be a better partner. I would show up to work and feel fresh. Like, especially towards the end of when I worked at this restaurant, I like had my break. I, was just like showing up to work fresh as a daisy. And like, if people went out, they'd be like, oh God, I'm struggling today. And I wasn't. And it was so nice. I feel like I could do my job better and I was just happier. Even on bad days, even days when I didn't feel great, like I wasn't hungover or I wasn't feeling the effects of alcohol. So I was like, well, that's great. That's freaking awesome. And also when it came to, auditions or, shows that I was in, what's interesting is I never drank when I was in shows because I took it so seriously. I didn't want to mess up my voice. I didn't want to be dehydrated. I wanted to be present. I wanted to get good rest. So it is interesting that like I knew to like switch it off. And that's why also the break was like, I can do that. I'm very good at being like, I'm not doing this. But yeah, it's just interesting that in shows I was like, this is very serious. I'm like, well, my life is a little serious too. Like
Yeah,
I should probably like be the best I can be in my life too. But anyway, so yeah, I just felt like better at auditions. Like I kind of said in the intro, you know, sometimes I would go in and if I had a bad audition, I'd be like, maybe it was because I drank 2 nights ago and I'm still having the effects and like I couldn't hit the note or it wasn't as clear or maybe I'm dehydrated. You know, I had moments too where I'd go out drinking and then I'd have a voice lesson the next morning. I'm like, I just wasted like however much money I just spent on this lesson because I was not at my best. Right. And I was dry and like my vocal cords were like, no, don't do this to us. So I just feel like in every aspect, like my life was healthier and better and brighter. And yeah, I just feel like the break led to so many breakthroughs. And I had called a friend before I decided to do the break. And I had a full breakdown and I was like, I just don't know if I can do this. I don't, alcohol just like, doesn't mix with me. You know, I was just saying all this stuff and he's sober and he was very open about it online. We went to college together and he recommended the book, This Naked Mind by Annie Grace. And I ordered it immediately on Amazon. And so I read that and that really helped me. And I started kind of exploring like sober Instagram and for a while, like secretly, like not fully following, like secretly checking in, and just being able to see people who were like young women. And I'm like, wow, they have smiles on their faces. Like, it doesn't look like their lives have ended. Like, then it made me see like, I could do this too. And just, you know, see the possibility. And I just really liked who I was. And I was like, I'm going to keep going. And honestly, it changed my life. That break changed my life. Sober Instagram changed my life. And This Naked Mind helped change my life. So, yeah.
Well, and I like this idea of there doesn't need to be like some big revelation. There doesn't need to be some like earth-shattering experience before you quit drinking or after. Like just liking yourself better is reason enough to keep doing it. And I think, you know, so many people, myself included, it's like I teetered on sober curiosity for a long time of like, I know I should do this. Let me try. I can get some time under my belt, but then what will people think of me? And then, you know, going back and forth. And it's like, it's okay to just decide that your life feels better without it. And like, stop doing the mental gymnastics of like trying to do the calculations of like how you can make this work. Like, it's okay to just decide it doesn't work. Yeah. And, you know, I also, sober Instagram wasn't really a thing when I first quit drinking, but like now I'm like, this is amazing because what it does is it just opens doors for people. It gives people the permission to see themselves. And what we're doing here is opening up different stories so somebody can see themselves in somebody's story, even if they don't resonate with mine or they don't resonate with the last person we had on the podcast. Like there's going to be somebody here who they resonate with. And it changes the calculus once you see somebody like you who is living this city life, who is an actress, who does all of these things. What is the change in your social life been like? What is the change in city life, New York City, the glamour of staying up all night? What does that look like for you now?
I mean, it's definitely shifted. But again, when I got sober, I was in a relationship. So, you know, I spent a lot of time with him. I have really supportive friends. I didn't really lose like my good friends. I did lose the drinking friends or the friends who the only thing we had in common was going out to drink. So I think it wasn't even hard because I'm like, I don't want to be in those settings. So it's honestly for the best. But the people who have always been like my good friends and like, we have just such a solid foundation for our friendship that's not based on drinking. They've stayed my best friends, have been so supportive. And I still love to go out. I love to be social. I love to go dancing till 2, 3 in the morning. Like, you know, not every day. I'm 30 now. Like my body just like wants to rest. And that's okay. Listen to your body. But my friends are so supportive, and like, I am okay having non-alcoholic alternatives. So like, it's been so cool to see, some bars have like non-alcoholic beer or, other like zero proof lists. And if they don't, you best believe I'm asking and being like, you guys should really consider that. Like, because also people can charge like a good amount for a mocktail, people want to pay for a good beverage, not just like a juice.
Right.
So I still go out and stuff, and I'm sober dating for the first time too, which has been new to navigate, and honestly amazing. I mean, not amazing. Dating's hard. The apps are exhausting, but it's been amazing because I feel so confident in who I am because I'm sober, and I've gone through life sober for now almost 3 years, and I've gone to therapy, and I've been through a lot in the last 3 years that have helped me just kind of come home to myself. And I feel like sobriety has helped me do that and to get to know myself more. I really feel like I'm discovering new parts of myself all the time, and that's really exciting. And so I feel like with dating, I'm very open about the fact that I don't drink on the apps, and it kind of gets conversations going. Or, if people don't understand, then they'll just not swipe on me or not match with me. And that's not a person I want to be with. So it's really, I feel like it weeds out people that are not for me. And I feel like I've had such cool connections because of it. Either people are like, oh, I don't drink either, and they just don't write it on their profile, or, hey, it's refreshing to go on a date and to not go out for drinks. Like, can I take you out? Like, can we go get coffee or go for a walk or whatever? So it's been really, really nice.
Well, the reason I asked that question in the first place is I already knew the answer because I follow you on Instagram, and I'm like, she like lives the city life, like lives the LA life, lives the New York City life.
Yeah.
And what I love so much about your content is like, you live the same amazing, fun, exciting, adventurous life still just without alcohol. And I already knew the answer to your question because I think that that's one of the really important things about what you share is like, you still go dancing. You still go to the cool events. You still do all this stuff. You just don't do it with alcohol. I'm so glad you brought up sober dating because I've been so curious about this. I have been, I got married like 1,000 years ago, and I got married even before, at least 1,000 years ago, before the dating apps for sure. So I imagine like there's a lot of just like anxiety around this idea. And I'm so glad you said that you have it on your profile because I've talked to people before and they're like, I just don't know. Like, I don't want to tell people beforehand that I don't drink. And I'm like, why not? It just like eliminates all of these people who are going to give you a negative face-to-face interaction versus like, get it over with at the beginning. You've already got 1,000 people that you're swiping. Might as well eliminate a couple. So what have been some of the sober dates you've been on?
I've been on dinner dates, lunch dates, coffee dates. What other things? I feel like although I'm like sober dating, again, since I've been so back and forth and now I'm about to leave, it's not really the time to get into something. Like when I tell people like, oh, I'm actually going to go to California for my birthday, and then I'm going to be back here, and then I'm going to go to Aspen. I'm sure they're like, okay, well, when are we going to go on a second date? But again, like I'm kind of in this phase of like, I think it's fun to date. And I think I'm like, it's like practice. It's like practice for the right person that's going to come into my life. And it could be someone I go on these dates with or not. But so I always suggest too, like maybe an activity, or now that the weather's good, like, I think people have expressed to me that they feel like a coffee date can feel very like business meeting-y, like let's meet for coffee and talk business. I had a really great coffee date with someone, but now that the weather's nice, like I think you could grab a coffee and like walk through the park or sit on a bench in the park or have a picnic. I'm still kind of navigating, what good dates are. I don't know. I'm also down to go meet someone for a drink. And I always just say like, yeah, as long as they have non-alcoholic options, which, I mean, they're always going to have a club soda and stuff, but as long as people are kind of, want to work with me, I'm like, okay, then sure.
Well, and I feel like there's so many more places, especially in a city like New York, and even I'm in Austin. It's like we're starting to see better menus. We're starting to see more options. But it's so interesting when you take alcohol out of the equation. I feel like we've just gotten so tied up in knots around this idea of like alcohol is the centerpiece, or alcohol is the focal point of everything we do socially. And it's like, there are actually 1,000 different things that we could do that aren't going to get drinks. We just got to, get a little creative here. One of the things I hear you saying kind of more thematically though, is like, you seem really settled in yourself. Do you think you would be in the same place if you were still drinking?
No. And honestly, I'm no longer in my relationship, but I don't even know if I would have gotten sober if I had been single this whole time. I think having someone who I was like, I don't want to mess this up. I see a future with this person. That really was like, and they never said like, you should stop drinking. Like, it was just like, I can't continue to live this way, and it's not fair to him or to myself. So yeah, I think if I had been single all this time, like I probably would still be drinking. And yeah, I'm just so glad I'm not drinking. I would have never known this version of myself, which is like my most authentic self. I would have numbed my feelings. I would have probably not been the best person to go on dates with, because, I remember dating in my early 20s and like, yeah, all you do is let's go for a drink. Like that is just the classic thing. That's the go-to. And so, a lot of the time I'd be like, do I like this person? Were they a good kisser? I can't remember. Did I miss a red flag because I don't remember, or I was blacked out? I would go home with people. Like again, going back to being like a good girl, like I don't just go home with people. Like no shame if someone does that, but like I am very much a person who like, I wish I could be like, oh yay, like I'm just gonna go and like hook up with someone. It's just like I need trust with someone before that happens. And when I was drinking, all of that was out the window. I was just I couldn't make good decisions because I wasn't in my right state of mind. And so I'd wake up in someone's bed and be like, wow, Shea, why? Like, this is so not you. If you had not drank on this date, you would never have ended up here. Do you even like this person? Like, I realized that in my early 20s and stuff. And before I got like back with my ex, who's now again my ex, most of the sex I had was drunk sex, because I would never have gone home with these people if I was sober. So that's a new thing too. And I'm very open. I'm nervous to like have sober sex for the first time with someone new, because I got sober in my last relationship. And so I was able to communicate with my partner and be like, I'm nervous, like to be fully present and be in my body. But that's also what made it so great in the long run. But again, I had someone who I could communicate openly with. And so I am nervous for when that time comes. I'm excited. Like sure, but I haven't been with someone else sober.
Well, and I think it's vulnerable. We get so used to disconnecting from our physical bodies with the use of alcohol. And like you said, moving to a different part of our brain that is not able to stay in the present and stay in like the experience of what we're experiencing. It's just much more animalistic, and it's totally fine doing it anyway. So it's just very vulnerable to be in an experience where you're intimate with somebody and there's nothing numbing it. There's nothing taking the edge off. But, I like what you said about trust and creating like these environments of safety and understanding that about yourself, that it's like a requirement of when you will be with somebody in that experience in the future. And now being able to connect the dots between how you wanted to act, how you wanted to be able to go on dates and not end up in somebody's bed, and like now being able to actually act on that, now being able to actually be fully in control of who you sleep with, who you do not, and not just like this like animalistic part of your brain. When you said you were the makeout queen, it made me laugh because sorry to my family, but like in college, I was totally the makeout queen. Like loved to just like be on a dance floor, making out with a stranger. And it was never like, never went anywhere. It was usually somebody that's like, when the lights would turn on, I'd be like, oh, that's not what I would have.
You'd sober up for a quick second.
Yeah. So, it's what a gift to be able to have that discernment now moving forward and being able to say, no, I'm really intentional about this and I want it to feel good and I want it to feel safe and I want there to be trust. And it's okay for it to be a little bit scary.
Yeah. I mean, and yeah, I love that you brought the makeout queen back up again because sometimes I would love a good makeout, but it's different when you're not like sloppy and, you are both on the same level of drunk and you just kind of go for it. Like sometimes I would love like a random makeout, but you're present, you're actually aware. Yeah. So it's not as like hot as you thought it was when you were drinking, which I'm sure it was just not hot at all, but you're like, oh yes, I'm so sexy. But now I'm like so aware of myself. I wouldn't just like go in to make out. You know what I mean? It doesn't go there.
Yeah. And it's definitely a lot less sloppy too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You are actually aware of what is going on, which is like, I've had like kisses on dates and whatever, like makeout sessions, little things. Again, I haven't dated that many people. But it's scary. Like I find myself becoming like a young girl again, like getting like butterflies and like being like, am I doing this right? Because like, I was with someone forever. And I haven't been with someone for like over a year. And I was like, do I even remember what I'm doing? Like as silly as that sounds. But I mean, that's like the beautiful thing too, is like, I am in control. I'm aware. I am choosing. Do I want to kiss this person? Do I not? Do I want to go home with them? Haven't done that. But like, I'm in control and I won't do something that I regret just because.
Well, and it's more focused on like, doing it for the intent of feeling good and feeling pleasure and not just doing it because you're out of control or you feel like you have to, or like, I feel like it shifts the dynamic of and even like myself in my 1,000-year marriage, it's like, there was a period of time where we had never had sober sex either because we met when I was in college. We partied all through our early 20s. We partied through early parenthood, and every scenario, anytime, we would be intimate was after drinks usually. And it was like having to step into that, even in a container that I had already been in for a long time. It's so like, suddenly you're like very aware of your body, which I mean, we always are, but it's like, and then it's just like hard to like actually ask for what you want. And it's all, for me, it just like comes down to like vulnerability and how hard that can be, but how good it can be too. And it's a really interesting muscle to flex, your vulnerability muscle. And I think that comes up a lot. I'm so disappointed. Tani, Laura, and Talia Bennick and I submitted a panel for South by Southwest all about sober sex, and it got denied. And I'm so sad.
What?
So I know. So we're going to pitch it again next year because I think it's something that needs to be. It's so important. And I think it's a barrier for a lot of people to actually change their relationship with alcohol because they're like, I cannot imagine being vulnerable with somebody like that and not having some sort of liquid courage, especially if you're dating, especially if you've been with a partner for a long time and that has been your only experience. And I mean, you and I know that on the other side, like alcohol does nothing for our sex life. Alcohol serves us in no way in the way we feel in our bodies and the choices we make. And it's just so much better on the other side.
Like, drunk sex is not even good. Like, it's just not like you're messy. Like I became, I don't even know, a wild person. Like I was like saying things I would never say. And I'm like, and even like my ex expressed to me, like, I don't like to have sex with you when you've been drinking. Cause it's like, and it's not even like fully it wasn't ever like fully pleasurable for me because like it dulls your senses and everything. Like, and now that I'm sober, like it's, and then just having sober sex, like you actually feel things like it's not like it numbs your sensations. And I
Yeah.
think that's like what's so beautiful. And that's what was scary before, thank goodness I was with someone that I loved and trusted so much. And I was able to say, hey, I'm nervous, or like, hey, my sex drive has changed now, because
Yeah.
I would lean on drinking sometimes to like get me there when like it was just ridiculous. But anyway, going back to
really
talking about sober sex. Yeah. I think it's so important. Like, I think, talking about sex in general is not normal. And I feel like for so long, I was like, am I doing it right? Am I good? Am I, you know what I mean? Like, because no one talks about it openly, or we don't get educated about it. And so I've really found, now, I'm 30 now, just in my like late 20s, and just getting sober and just connecting with myself, like just wanting to learn more. And especially when I think sober sex, it's so important to talk about, because it's not. And I think it scares people. But I also think that people are curious and they want to know, and they want to be like, wow, like I have those fears too. Or like, I'm nervous, like, or I haven't stopped drinking because I'm nervous to date when I'm not drinking, or like maybe people won't like me, or like maybe I don't know. So I think it's important, and keep pitching that. I know I've been talking to Tawny too about having like a live about it, because I just think it's important. I talked about it on Instagram recently, because I had someone ask me the question, what is it like, what's it like having like sober sex for the first time, or what was your experience? And I was like, I haven't had it yet. Now you really know my life. Like, I was like, honestly, and I did a poll. I was like, would you want to talk more about sober sex? 100% yes. No one put no, because I mean, the good thing is on Instagram too, people can kind of hide behind their phones. And so if they're curious about something, they can ask and not feel like they're telling the whole world, like, yeah, actually I'm interested in knowing about this topic or that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
you're spot on though. Like, and even like taking the sobriety out of it, like I've got 2 kids, I've got 2 boys, and like, I've already been thinking about like how we want to raise them, and how we want them to understand their bodies and intimacy. And there was just so much that I didn't even know. And I have so many shame stories from what I didn't know, and then stumbled into like actual experiences. And when I think about having these conversations like you and I are having here, it's like, how can we pull back a little bit of the curtain so that people have fewer shame experiences, so there is more joy in the world, so there is more happiness, so there is more physical pleasure, because that's all the good stuff, and that's why we're here. And if we want to talk about dopamine and all the things that we can replace alcohol with, that's a good one. But I think it's really important to talk about. So we'll add you to the pitch next time. We'll put you on our panel for that.
I'm in.
Beautiful. I love it. Well, man, I could talk about that forever, but we are gonna go over time if we keep doing that. So I want to get to one last question for you. Actually, I have 2 questions. First question, how did you come up with the name No Booze Babes?
With my sister Sid. I think Sid actually ended up coming up with it. I was pitching to her like sober sisters, because I was like, ooh, we're actual sisters. And then people like call their girlfriends who are also sober, like sober sisters. I think that name was actually taken. And then I wanted something that, didn't necessarily have sober in it. Like, of course it's in my bio and everything, but I know that not everyone calls themselves sober. I've been calling myself sober from the beginning. I mean, I could easily say, I just don't drink, I think what held me back from calling myself sober and actually getting sober was I thought I had to like go to AA. I thought I had to like be stumbling and bumbling on the street. Like, you know what I mean? It just, again, just all the negative stigma that are around sobriety. So I think No Booze Babes is very approachable. It's like no booze, whether that's like, I'm just doing dry January and I'm a no booze babe for that month, or I'm sober curious. Like, this is a judgment-free place, and it's a safe place for everyone. Even if people who are drink follow along, like I do not judge people for drinking. Like, I want people to do what's best for them, but I also want them to know that if they're questioning their relationship with alcohol, you like listen to that and trust yourself, and listen to yourself, listen to what's best for you. And that life is beautiful without booze. It just is.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Final question. If your story were to be made into a book, what would it be titled?
I mean, I think the obvious choice would be like No Booze Babe or No Booze Babes, or how like ditching the booze changed my life. I want to come up with something so good because I love like a good quote. If you
A
follow my
catchy title.
Instagram, a quote or yeah. Yeah, but I think it could just be No Booze Babes, the story of how
Beautiful.
being booze free changed my life.
Beautiful. It's a great tagline. I think that summarizes it beautifully.
Thank you.
Well, Shea, thank you so much for your time and for taking us down such fun rabbit holes. I
So
appreciate
many.
I appreciate where we've gone with this. I know our listeners are going to want to connect with you. How do they find you? What do you have going on in your world? I know you're busy with theater, but anything happening with No Booze Babes?
I mean, you can find me on Instagram at No Booze Babes. You can find me on TikTok. Honestly, right now, like I have the show coming up and I kind of stepped back. I've had some stuff go on in my personal life, kind of at the beginning of this year. And so I kind of try to practice what I preach and like take care of myself. But I miss being as active as I used to be. And there's a lot that I still want to do. I just have to follow through. So we'll see. More exciting things to come, meetups, merch, all that. I've been talking about it forever, but
beautiful.
It's gonna happen. But yeah, No Booze Babes.
Make an Austin meetup happening. I'm gonna like manifest that into the world. We'll like meet halfway between LA and New York City, and yes, we're gonna manifest this into
I want to come to Austin, just like in general, but also there's so many amazing like sober people in Austin that I've connected with. So
it is
I'd love to meet you in person.
Yeah, we've got like an odd. We're very lucky. We've got quite a big sober circle in Austin. It's very strange but good. It's surprising. But Shea, thank you so much for your story and for your time today. And I know that somebody needed to hear your sober story to be able to see themselves reflected in it and realize they have permission to make this choice if that is something they choose. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.